Your mind is the most extraordinary tool you will ever possess. It is the engine that drives your decisions, your habits, your destiny itself. Yet so few people ever truly understand its power. From the moment we wake, most of us drift through the day reacting to circumstances instead of directing them. We let small annoyances shape our mood. We let the opinions of others dictate our confidence. We let fear steer us away from opportunity. And so we live lives of quiet resignation, never realizing that the key to everything we want has been within us all along. If you're listening right now, I want you to pause and think carefully. Are you controlling your mind, or is your mind controlling you? Before we go deeper, if you find value in this message, I encourage you to like and subscribe so you never miss these reminders of who you can become. Because in a world so full of noise, sometimes we need to choose carefully what we allow in. Most people never stop to realize that their mind is fertile ground. Like any soil, it does not care what you plant, it will return what you sow. Plant seeds of fear, worry, and limitation, and you will harvest exactly that, a life of frustration and regret. Plant seeds of vision, discipline, and courage, and you will harvest a life of achievement, joy, and purpose. The mind does not discriminate. It simply obeys. This is the strange secret so few ever learn. You become what you think about. That idea may sound simple, even obvious, but it is the bedrock of all success. A man who believes he can do something acts in ways that make it real. A man who believes he is doomed finds ways to fail even when success is within reach. Your thoughts shape your beliefs shape your actions shape your results, and your results reinforce your thoughts. It is a self-fulfilling prophecy. I have met men who told me they never had a chance, that life was against them, that luck never came their way. And in every case they were right, not because the world conspired against them, but because they accepted defeat in their mind, long before any battle was fought. They spoke of limitations and so lived within them. They believed in scarcity and so saw it everywhere. On the other hand, I have known men and women who faced terrible odds, yet chose to believe in possibility. They trained their minds to see opportunity where others saw obstacles. They expected growth and so found it. It was not chance. It was not luck. It was a disciplined choice to direct the mind toward success. Every single day they reaffirmed their vision and acted upon it. And the world, as it always does, yielded to their expectations. Consider this for a moment. If I handed you the keys to a powerful machine capable of taking you anywhere you wish to go, would you simply let it idle? Would you steer it into a ditch because you were too lazy or too distracted to guide it? Yet that is exactly what most of us do with our minds. We possess the most advanced instrument in the known universe, but we fill it with gossip, fear, doubt, and petty distractions. We let the news tell us what is possible. We let cynical friends and family shape our ambitions. We surrender the controls to anyone who speaks with certainty, even if they know nothing of our true potential. And then we wonder why we feel lost, anxious, or unfulfilled. The truth is, your mind will take you exactly where you tell it to go, but only if you are brave enough to set the destination. If you want to change your life, you must begin by changing your thoughts. That is not a slogan. It is a principle as immutable as gravity. When you start each day with clear intent, when you decide what you want, visualize it, and hold it in your mind, you begin to reshape your destiny. This is not magic. It is the natural consequence of focus. What you focus on expands. What you feed grows. If you feed your mind empowering ideas, you will begin to see new options, take bolder actions, and attract better outcomes. Over time, those small changes compound into a transformed life. But this requires discipline. It requires vigilance. It requires that you stand guard at the door of your mind, refusing to let in the weeds of doubt and fear. And while it is simple in theory, it is rare in practice, because it demands that you take full responsibility for what you think, and therefore for what you become. Most people will never understand the power they hold within their own minds. They will go through life blaming circumstances, fate, or luck for where they end up, never realizing that they themselves were the architect of every outcome. They will say things like, "I can't help the way I feel," or "That's just the way I am," as though they were programmed by forces beyond their control. But the truth is this: you can choose your thoughts. You can guide them, shape them, and direct them toward any end you desire. That is the gift you have been given as a human being, the ability to think deliberately, to imagine a future that does not yet exist, and to move toward it with purpose. When you truly understand this, you realize that no one can make you angry without your permission. No one can make you feel inferior unless you allow it. The mind is yours to command, but like any powerful tool, it must be trained and directed with intention. It amazes me how much time and money people will spend on things outside themselves while neglecting the one thing that determines their success in every field. They will buy new clothes, new gadgets, new cars, all while ignoring the mind that decides how to use them. A man might spend years studying how to play golf, mastering every detail of his swing, but will spend no time learning how to think. And yet your thoughts shape your health, your relationships, your career, your happiness, your legacy. Think of that. Every goal you will ever achieve begins first as a thought in your mind. Every failure, too. So why do so few invest in learning how to think clearly, calmly, and productively? Perhaps it is because it requires effort. It requires self-honesty. It demands that you confront the uncomfortable truth that if your life is not what you want it to be, you are responsible for changing it. You see, it is easier to blame the economy than to learn a new skill. It is easier to blame your boss than to develop your value. It is easier to say you don't have time than to admit you waste it. But this easy path is also the path of mediocrity. Those who achieve true success understand that they must master themselves before they can master anything else. They recognize that the world will pay them in proportion to the value they bring, and that value is a direct reflection of their mindset. They see challenges as opportunities to grow. They understand that failure is only feedback. They do not wish for life to be easier. They work to become stronger. And they know that all of this begins in the mind. For as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. It is an ancient truth, yet as relevant today as it ever was. Let us be clear, this is not about repeating empty affirmations. It is about conditioning your thoughts to align with your goals. It is about replacing confusion with clarity, fear with faith, laziness with discipline. It is about training yourself to see possibility where others see limits. When you make this commitment, you will find that the world begins to shift in subtle but powerful ways. Opportunities will appear that you had never noticed before. Solutions will present themselves where once there were only problems. People will be drawn to your confidence, your certainty, your vision. This is not magic. It is the natural consequence of a mind that knows where it is going. Most people wander through life without such clarity. They hope for success, but they do not plan for it. They wish for happiness, but they do not cultivate it. They want respect, but they do not earn it, and so they remain adrift. I want you to imagine for a moment that your mind is a garden. Whatever you plant there will grow. If you plant weeds of doubt, fear, and negativity, they will choke out anything good. But if you plant seeds of vision, courage, and gratitude, you will harvest abundance. You must tend to this garden daily. You must remove the weeds as they appear. You must water and nourish the ideas that serve you. This is the true work of self-mastery. It is not dramatic, it is not always exciting, but it is the foundation upon which all success is built. When you choose to take this responsibility, you move from being a victim of circumstances to being the author of your own life. You begin to see that your destiny is not determined by chance, but by choice. Your choice to think deliberately, to act decisively, and to grow continually. This is the invitation I extend to you now. Invest in your mind. Shape your thoughts. For in doing so, you will shape your destiny. Most people have no idea how powerful their daily thoughts truly are. They wake up in the morning and immediately let the world dictate their mindset. They check their phones and see the latest crisis, the latest outrage, and begin the day with anxiety or frustration they did not choose. They rush to work consumed by worry about deadlines, bills, and obligations. They speak with friends and reinforce complaints and gossip, and by nightfall they are drained, defeated, convinced that this is simply what life is. They will say that's just reality. But reality is largely the result of what they chose to focus on, to dwell upon, to give their mental energy. Your dominant thoughts over time become your expectations, and your expectations shape your decisions. Those decisions form your habits, and your habits become your destiny. If you allow the world to plant weeds in your mind, you will harvest a life you did not want. This is why you must decide firmly and daily what you will think about. Think of the mind as the captain of a great ship. If the captain gives clear, confident orders, the crew obeys. The ship stays on course. But if the captain is confused, fearful, or inattentive, the crew panics, and the ship drifts or crashes onto the rocks. Your subconscious mind is that crew. It does not question your commands. It acts upon them. If you repeatedly tell yourself you're unlucky, unworthy, or incapable, your subconscious will find ways to prove it true. You will overlook opportunities, sabotage your efforts, or shrink from challenges. Conversely, if you deliberately affirm that you are capable, resourceful, and worthy of success, your subconscious will seek evidence to confirm it. You will see possibilities you once missed. You will take courageous actions. You will develop the skills needed to justify your belief. This is not wishful thinking. It is how the mind works. It is the principle behind every great achievement in human history. Consider the person who says they can't change. What they really mean is they won't take responsibility for their thoughts. Change is always possible because thought is always possible. A man may be born into poverty, but if he refuses to accept poverty as his destiny, if he fills his mind with visions of abundance and works diligently toward them, he can rise above his circumstances. History is filled with such examples. Men and women who began with nothing but an idea, a belief, and who changed the world through the power of thought acted upon. Conversely, there are those born into wealth and privilege who squander everything because they never learned to think independently. They let others tell them what to believe, what to fear, what to expect. Their wealth could not save them from mental poverty. This is why true success is never about resources alone. It is about resourcefulness, the capacity to think clearly, creatively, and courageously. It is worth asking yourself honestly what thoughts dominate your mind each day. Are they thoughts of gratitude, possibility, and purpose? Or are they thoughts of fear, resentment, and limitation? The mind cannot hold two conflicting beliefs indefinitely. One will always dominate the other. If you want to master your life, you must master your mental diet. Just as an athlete trains the body and watches what he eats, you must train your mind and watch what you feed it. Read books that challenge and uplift you. Surround yourself with people who expect more of you. Reflect daily on what you want to become and why. When negative thoughts arise, do not entertain them. Replace them with better ones. This is not easy, but it is essential. The untrained mind is like an untrained horse. It will throw you at the first sign of trouble. The trained mind is a loyal servant capable of extraordinary feats. Understand this deeply. You are always programming your mind. Either you are doing it deliberately, or the world is doing it for you. Every conversation you have, every show you watch, every thought you allow in is a form of mental programming. If you do not choose your influences wisely, you will be shaped by whatever is loudest, most persistent, and most convenient. And often what is convenient is harmful. Gossip, outrage, fear, these are easy to consume but costly to carry. So choose carefully. Curate your environment. Be ruthless about what you allow into the fertile soil of your mind, because what you plant today, you will harvest tomorrow. The man who understands this truth holds the key to his own future. He no longer drifts. He no longer blames. He no longer waits for someone else to rescue him. He becomes the captain of his fate, the master of his soul, the conscious author of his own destiny. Many people misunderstand the idea of controlling their thoughts. They imagine it means denying reality, ignoring problems, or pretending that everything is fine when it isn't. But this is not the case at all. Controlling your thoughts does not mean you lie to yourself. It means you choose to focus on solutions rather than problems. It means you decide to see opportunity where others see only obstacles. It means you accept reality as it is, but refuse to let it define you. The world is full of challenges. This is certain. But you can choose how you interpret those challenges, how you respond to them, and what you ultimately learn from them. This choice is what separates those who grow stronger from adversity from those who are crushed by it. It is what separates leaders from followers, creators from consumers, the fulfilled from the frustrated. Think for a moment about the greatest inventors, entrepreneurs, and leaders in history. These were not people who were spared hardship. On the contrary, they often faced greater difficulties than the average person. But they possessed one thing in common: the ability to hold a vision in their minds even when their circumstances seemed to contradict it. They trained themselves to focus on what they wanted to create rather than what they feared might happen. They saw problems as puzzles to be solved, not reasons to give up. They expected solutions to appear because they believed they would find them if they kept searching. This mental discipline is not magic, but it often feels magical in its results, because the mind, once focused and committed, begins to notice patterns, opportunities, and connections that remain invisible to the unfocused and distracted. You see, your environment will always offer reasons to quit. There will always be voices telling you it's too hard, too risky, too late. There will always be failures and setbacks that test your resolve. But if you have cultivated the habit of directing your mind toward your goals, you will not be easily swayed. You will be like a ship with a strong rudder that can cut through the storm. The winds of circumstance will blow, but they will not determine your destination. You will. This is why mental training is not a luxury for the few. It is a necessity for anyone who wishes to live a life of meaning and impact. Those who neglect it remain slaves to circumstance, forever reacting instead of creating. Those who master it become free to chart their own course. Let us consider the idea of responsibility. Many resist this word because they associate it with blame. But responsibility is not about blame, it is about ownership. When you accept responsibility for your thoughts, you claim ownership over your future. You say, I may not control everything that happens to me, but I will always control how I interpret it and how I respond. This is the essence of personal power. It is the difference between living as a victim and living as a creator. The victim says, why is this happening to me? The creator asks, what can I learn from this? How can I use this? These questions direct the mind toward growth rather than stagnation. They transform setbacks into stepping stones. They turn pain into wisdom. This is not theory, it is a principle as dependable as any physical law. Understand this. Your mind cannot hold contradictory beliefs for long. You cannot consistently tell yourself you are powerless and expect to act with courage. You cannot dwell on thoughts of scarcity and expect to behave generously. You cannot repeat stories of failure and expect to succeed. If you want to change your behavior, you must first change your beliefs. And to change your beliefs, you must change the thoughts you feed them. This is the daily work of mental mastery. It is not accomplished once and forgotten. It is a lifelong commitment. But it is a commitment that pays dividends beyond measure. For once you master your thoughts, you master your actions. And once you master your actions, you master your results. This is the path to freedom, to success, to a life that is not merely endured but deliberately designed. There is a fundamental truth that most people overlook in their search for success. The external world is a reflection of the internal world. Look around at your life, your relationships, your career, your health, your finances. These are not accidents. They are mirrors reflecting your beliefs, your expectations, and your persistent thoughts. A man who sees the world as hostile will find enemies everywhere. A man who believes the world is filled with opportunity will see chances others miss. This is not some abstract philosophy. It is how perception works. Your beliefs filter your experiences. Two people can face the same event and interpret it in completely different ways. One sees a setback as proof of failure. The other sees it as a lesson, a stepping stone. The event is the same. The difference is the mind interpreting it. This is why changing your mind, changing how you think, is the most powerful change you can ever make. Many people think they will change when their circumstances improve. I'll be confident when I'm successful, they say. I'll be happy when I have more money. I'll be calm when my problems go away. But that is backwards. Circumstances don't shape the mind nearly as much as the mind shapes circumstances. The man who waits for confidence before he acts will never act. The man who chooses to act confidently creates the very success he desires. Likewise, waiting to be happy until life is perfect guarantees you will never be happy at all. Perfection never comes. Life is always imperfect, always presenting new challenges. Happiness is a choice you make now. Confidence is a posture you adopt now. Calm is a habit you practice now. And by making these choices in the present, you shape the future. Because the man who lives with confidence, happiness, and calm today plants the seeds that will bear fruit tomorrow. Think of the mind like a thermostat. It sets the temperature of your life. If you set it low, you will always find ways to cool your ambitions, to justify staying small. If you set it high, you will push yourself to grow, to adapt, to meet challenges with creativity and courage. Most people allow others to set their thermostat. They let family, friends, culture, and even strangers decide what is realistic, what is normal, what is possible. And so they live lives of quiet desperation, never daring to turn up the heat on their own dreams. But the mind is yours. It is your responsibility to set the standard, to decide what you will expect from yourself, to choose what you will tolerate and what you will pursue. And once you set that standard, life will rise or fall to meet it. This is why self-image is so important. You will never outperform your own self-concept for long. You will always act in ways that prove it true. Consider the man who decides to become financially independent. If he sees himself as someone who is capable, worthy, and intelligent, he will look for opportunities. He will educate himself. He will take calculated risks. He will persist through failure. But if he secretly believes he is unworthy of wealth, that money is evil, or that success is for other people, he will sabotage himself at every turn. He may find ways to lose money, to avoid responsibility, to quit when it gets hard. And he will say, "See, I knew it wouldn't work." But it is not the market that decided his fate. It was his own mind. The same is true in relationships, health, and every other area. Your self-concept acts as a governor on your behavior. It determines what you allow yourself to have, to pursue, to achieve. If you want to change your results, you must first change the picture you hold of yourself. I want you to consider carefully. What do you believe about yourself right now? What do you believe is possible for you? Are these beliefs serving you, or are they limiting you? The truth is, you can choose new beliefs at any time. You can decide today to see yourself as worthy, capable, and resilient. You can begin to tell yourself a new story. And as you repeat it, as you act in alignment with it, your subconscious will begin to accept it as true. You will begin to behave in new ways, notice new opportunities, attract new people. This is not pretending, it is planting. Just as a farmer plants seeds knowing they will grow in time, you plant beliefs knowing they will shape your reality. But you must be patient. You must be consistent. The harvest does not appear overnight, but given time, it is inevitable. This is the true work of transformation. It is not done in a day, but it begins with a single decision: to think deliberately, to believe purposefully, to shape your mind so that it can shape your destiny. Many people think that circumstances are the defining force in their lives, that where they are born, who their parents were, the economy they live in, these things determine their fate. But if you study the lives of the truly successful, you find they come from every imaginable background. Some were born into privilege. Yes, but many more came from poverty, from hardship, from circumstances that seemed hopeless. What set them apart was not their environment, but their response to it. They chose to see their challenges as opportunities to grow stronger, wiser, and more determined. They understood that while they could not control every event in their lives, they could always control their interpretation of those events. They could always choose their attitude, their focus, and their next action. This is the essence of freedom. It is the recognition that you are not merely the product of circumstances, but the creator of your response to them. When you understand this, you reclaim your power. You realize that you are not at the mercy of chance. You are not a victim of fate. You are the architect of your destiny. This does not mean you will avoid hardship or pain. Life will always present challenges, but it means you can use those challenges as fuel for growth. A man who faces rejection can choose to see it as proof he is unworthy, or as feedback to improve. A woman who fails at a business can choose to see it as the end of her dreams or as an education more valuable than any degree. The event itself is neutral. It is our interpretation that gives it meaning, and meaning shapes our emotions, our actions, and ultimately our results. This is why two people can experience the same setback and one emerges stronger while the other gives up. The difference is not in what happened, but in what they chose to believe about what happened. This is why guarding your mind is not simply good advice. It is essential. Every day you are bombarded by messages designed to influence your thinking. Advertisements tell you what you need to buy to be happy. News stories tell you what to fear. Social media tells you how you should look, act, and think to be accepted. If you do not guard your mind, these messages will shape your beliefs without your consent. You will live by default instead of by design. You will find yourself pursuing goals you never truly chose, fearing things that do not matter, and ignoring the quiet voice within you that knows what you really want. This is why you must be vigilant. You must choose your influences wisely. Read books that elevate your thinking. Listen to people who inspire you to grow. Reflect regularly on your own beliefs and ask, are these truly mine, or did I inherit them without question? Understand that belief is not something passive. It is an active force that shapes reality. If you believe you are capable, you will act boldly, take risks, and persist through failure. And in doing so, you increase the odds of success. If you believe you are doomed to fail, you will hesitate, avoid challenges, and quit at the first sign of difficulty, proving yourself right. Belief is not wishful thinking. It is a self-fulfilling prophecy. The mind seeks evidence to confirm what it already believes. This is why it is so crucial to deliberately choose empowering beliefs, to tell yourself not what is safe or convenient, but what is true and possible. You must remind yourself daily that you are capable of learning, of adapting, of growing, that you are worthy of success, happiness, and fulfillment, that your future is not predetermined, but shaped by what you choose to believe and do today. I want you to make this commitment to yourself. From this day forward, I will take responsibility for my thoughts. I will no longer blame my past, my environment, or other people for my results. I will recognize that while I may not control every event, I will always control my response. I will choose beliefs that serve me. I will focus on what I can do, not what I can't. I will invest in my mind daily, knowing it is the most important asset I possess. Because when you do this, when you take ownership of your thinking, you become unstoppable. The world may throw challenges in your path, but you will see them as opportunities. Others may doubt you, but you will stand firm in your vision. Circumstances may change, but you will remain steady, guided by a clear sense of purpose. This is the promise of mental mastery. Not a life free of hardship, but a life where you are free to rise above it, to create, to lead, to truly live. There is a principle that governs every aspect of your life, whether you acknowledge it or not, the law of cause and effect. Every thought you entertain is a cause, and every outcome in your life is an effect. Most people live as though this law does not apply to them. They complain about their circumstances while refusing to examine the thoughts and beliefs that created them. They want better results without changing their actions, and they want different actions without changing their thinking. But you cannot harvest wheat if you plant thorns. You cannot enjoy abundance if you sow thoughts of scarcity. The mind is perfectly obedient. It gives you exactly what you plant in it, nothing more and nothing less. This is why personal responsibility is not a burden but a gift. It is the recognition that you hold the key to changing your life by first changing your thoughts. Consider the man who is always angry. He will say, "I can't help it, that's just the way I am." But this is not true. He has practiced anger so long it has become automatic. He has conditioned himself to interpret events through the lens of hostility and insult. He sees slights where none were intended. He reacts instead of responding. But he can change if he chooses to, by becoming aware of his thoughts, questioning them, and replacing them with better interpretations. He can cultivate patience and understanding. Likewise, the person who is always fearful has rehearsed thoughts of danger and failure so often that they feel natural. But these too can be changed. Fear can be replaced with curiosity, worry with planning, paralysis with action. The process is not instant, but it is inevitable for those who persist. Because just as you can train the body, you can train the mind. This is why daily mental practice is so important. Just as a musician must rehearse scales, or an athlete must train his body, you must exercise your mind. This means setting aside time each day to think deliberately, to reflect on your goals, to visualize the person you want to become, to examine your beliefs and ask, do these serve me, or do they limit me? Most people never do this. They let their thoughts run unchecked like weeds in a garden. And then they are surprised to find their lives overgrown with problems they never wanted. But you are not most people. If you are listening now, it is because you are ready to take responsibility, ready to do the work of tending your mind so that it becomes a garden of possibility, not limitation. Imagine for a moment what your life could be if you made this commitment, if you decided to treat your mind as your most valuable asset. What books would you read? What conversations would you have? What thoughts would you allow to take root? You would no longer waste time complaining, because you would see that complaints are confessions of helplessness. You would no longer envy others, because you would be too focused on developing your own potential. You would not fear failure, because you would see it as the necessary price of mastery. Your entire approach to life would change, not because the world changed, but because you did. You would become the kind of person who attracts opportunities, who earns respect, who creates value wherever you go. And it would all begin with a single choice: to think deliberately, to direct your mind instead of letting it direct you. I invite you now to make that choice, to commit to a new standard for yourself. Say to yourself, from this moment on, I will be the master of my mind. I will choose my thoughts carefully. I will guard my beliefs fiercely. I will invest in learning, in growth, in becoming the best version of myself. I will accept responsibility for my results and refuse to blame others or circumstances. I will see every challenge as a lesson, Every setback is feedback, every day is a new chance to improve. Because when you make this commitment, you claim your freedom. You step out of the role of victim and into the role of creator. And in doing so, you do not just change your own life, you inspire others to do the same. You become a living example of what is possible when a human being decides to master the most powerful tool they will ever have, their own mind. If you have followed along this far, you already know something most people will never understand. Your mind is not just an instrument for reacting to the world, but the primary tool for creating it. Every advance in human history began in someone's mind, as a thought, an idea, a vision that refused to be silenced. The airplane, the telephone, the cure for disease, all were impossible until they weren't. They became possible when someone chose to think differently, to question the accepted limits, to persist despite failure and ridicule. This is the true power of the human mind. It can imagine a world that does not yet exist, and then act to make it real. And this same power lies within you. The question is not whether you have this power, the question is whether you will use it deliberately or squander it in idle, fearful, or aimless thinking. When you wake each morning, you face a choice. You can let the world program your thoughts with fear, distraction, and triviality, or you can set your own intention. You can begin the day with gratitude, with purpose, with a clear idea of who you want to be and what you want to achieve. This choice determines everything. It shapes your emotions, your words, your actions. It influences how you treat people, how you handle setbacks, how you perceive opportunity. Most people never make this choice consciously. They drift into the day, checking their phones, reacting to the news, consumed by small worries that drain their energy. But you can choose a different path. You can choose to be deliberate, to feed your mind ideas that strengthen you, to speak words that uplift, to take actions that align with your highest goals. This is what it means to be truly alive, to live on purpose rather than by accident. It is important to understand that this work is never finished. Mastering your mind is not something you do once and forget. It is a daily practice, a lifelong commitment. Just as you must feed your body daily to stay healthy, you must feed your mind daily to stay strong. You must guard it from poison, negativity, cynicism, fear-mongering, and nourish it with truth, wisdom, and inspiration. You must reflect on your thoughts and ask, are these helping me grow, or are they keeping me small? Are they rooted in fear or in faith? And when you find thoughts that limit you, you must replace them with thoughts that liberate you. This is the essence of personal leadership. It is not about controlling the world outside you, but mastering the world within you. Because once you do that, you will find you have far more influence over the world outside than you ever imagined. Imagine the legacy you could leave if you made this commitment. Think of the people who look to you for guidance, your family, your friends, your colleagues. What would they see if you lived as someone who had mastered his mind? They would see a person who does not panic in crisis, who does not complain in difficulty, who does not lash out in anger or shrink in fear. They would see someone who acts with calm, clarity, and conviction. Someone who can see beyond the immediate problem to the greater possibility. Someone who does not follow the crowd but leads by example. And in seeing this, they would be inspired to do the same. This is how real change happens. Not through shouting, blaming, or demanding, but through quiet, consistent leadership of the self. You become the change you wish to see, and in doing so, you give others permission to change as well. So I ask you now, as we come to the end of this journey together, to make a promise to yourself. Promise that you will no longer be careless with your thoughts, that you will no longer accept beliefs simply because they are common or convenient, that you will choose deliberately what you will think, believe, and act upon, that you will invest in your mind daily, knowing that it is the most valuable asset you will ever possess. And when you do this, when you truly commit to mastering your mind, you will find that everything else changes. Your relationships improve, your health improves, your work becomes more meaningful, your days become more purposeful, your future becomes something you look forward to creating, rather than something you fear. And if you found value in this message, I invite you to share it, to subscribe, to stay connected to these ideas, because the more we spread them, the more we uplift, not just ourselves, but everyone around us.